Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to News Dose. And a heavily rumored Xbox device was just uncovered and seemingly confirmed. This does lean into a major strategy that Xbox has this generation, so we're going to talk about that one here in a little bit. And then also, it does appear that PlayStation will be making some major changes this generation, and not just where they release their games, but also what types of games they're making. So we'll talk about that one in a little bit as well. Before we get into all that though, if you do find yourself enjoying the video, go and hit that like button below, and if you want to stay up to date with all the latest gaming news, go and hit that bell notification and subscribe button as well. Besides all that though, let's just go and jump right into the video, actually starting off with PlayStation today, because it does look like yet another first-party PlayStation game will be heading over to PC sometime here soon, and this is actually a big one considering the significance of this release, which I'll kind of talk about here in just a second. But yes, Returnal has now been listed in the Steam database, which could indicate an incoming announcement. It does seem like oftentimes that when a game is listed in the Steam database, an announcement does eventually follow. And to just kind of add to that, this also does line up with the NVIDIA GeForce leak that we saw last year, which has proven time and time again to be one of the biggest leaks of all time. It does appear that list was very legitimate after all, despite NVIDIA saying otherwise. But in this situation, Returnal was listed on the NVIDIA GeForce leak, and now here it is in the Steam database as well. So while on one side, this has yet to officially be confirmed by Sony themselves, but at the same time, the evidence is quickly stacking up that Returnal on PC could actually be a real thing after all. And as I said before, this is actually quite significant considering this would be the first PlayStation 5 first-party game to release on PC. Before this, they primarily have been focusing on bringing their PlayStation 4 library over to PC, such as Uncharted, you have God of War, Days Gone, Horizon Zero Dawn, etc., etc. But this here with Returnal, this would mark a major diversion in their strategy, now bringing over PlayStation 5 games as well. And this actually does lean into something that we'll talk about a little later on in the video. But there you have it. Returnal on PC could be incoming rather soon, or at least according to the Steam database and the NVIDIA GeForce leak. Next up here though, we got a very welcome game announcement for the Nintendo Switch, as the highly anticipated retro JRPG Eiyuden Chronicles 100 Heroes is now slated to release on the Nintendo Switch alongside its already announced platforms, including Xbox, PlayStation, and PC. They did officially announce this over on their Kickstarter page, and that really is kind of the thing about this game. Eiyuden Chronicles is one of the most successful Kickstarter campaigns for games, and that's because not only is it a beautiful game with its HD 2D pixel art, but also because this is more or less a spiritual successor to Suikoden, which is often viewed as one of the all-time great JRPG franchises, specifically with Suikoden 2. So you can easily see why fans are just so excited for this game, and the success of their Kickstarter I think really does show that. And now that it's officially coming over to the Nintendo Switch as well, I think that excitement is really only going to increase from this point forward. In fact, I think that Eiyuden Chronicles is a perfect fit for the Switch. This is the same device that has kind of helped these 2D HD games rise in popularity with games like Octopath Traveler, Triangle Strategy, and then you also have the upcoming Live Alive HD game as well. To just kind of top it off, I think JRPGs period feel fantastic on the Switch, so I think Nintendo fans are really going to buy into Eiyuden Chronicles when it eventually releases in 2023. Now, we do also unfortunately have a bit of deflating news today. Of course, Capcom is set to release the Capcom Fighting Collection next month on June 24th, and this collection brings back several beloved games such as Darkstalkers, you have Cyberbots and Super Gym Fighters, among several others, and there's a real genuine excitement to see these games return in 2022. I think it personally looks like a great collection myself, especially with several Darkstalker games being included here. But for anybody hoping that this collection could lead to a possible just complete revival of some of these franchises, well, it doesn't sound like Capcom is anticipating that at all. In an interview, they were asked about this very specific topic, and let's just go ahead and check out what they had to say here. I genuinely want these titles to be played once again on current-gen consoles. I also want people who may have seen them but never had the chance to play them to get this opportunity. That said, we do not think that this will necessarily increase the possibility of these series being revived. So yeah, there you have it. This is probably not exactly what you wanted to hear if you are a fan of any of these games. I mean, We've been asking for new Darkstalkers games for what, years and years now, and sadly it just doesn't seem like it's going to happen anytime soon, or at least based off of this comment here. I imagine in terms of fighting games, what Capcom is probably doing is that they just have their full focus on Street Fighter 6, but still, for Darkstalkers fans out there, yeah, just a little bit of an unfortunate remark made here. Moving on though, let's go and talk about PlayStation, as they just divulged a lot of information at their business briefing, and a lot of things that they brought up here kind of shows a major shift in PlayStation strategy this generation. I think most of it's actually really good, but we'll kind of go over the big three changes that they're making here, starting off with one that we already kind of talked about earlier in the video, and that is that PlayStation is making more of a concerted effort to release their games on PC. They did in fact reveal some of the success that they've had with their recent PC releases, such as Horizon Zero Dawn, which released on PC back in 2020 and has officially sold 2.39 million units. Then you have Days Gone, that's now sold an additional 852,000 units on PC, while God of War, which released just earlier this year, has already sold 971,000 units. So they are having a lot of success here with their PC releases. It's basically just kind of like them finding money under a cushion. They didn't have to make a brand new game or anything like that. They just had to port these games over to PC and let the money just kind of flow to them. And that's really opened their eyes here, and actually so much so that their commitment now for PC is set to ramp up even further, as PlayStation says half of its annual releases will be on PC and mobile by 2025. Now, I don't know exactly what their mobile plans are per se, but it's pretty clear by this point that you'll absolutely see a lot more PlayStation PC releases throughout this generation. As we kind of talked about earlier, Returnal is likely going to be one of those next games, and that does signify that they're ready to bring some of those PlayStation 5 games over to PC as well. Again, if you've been following the news over the last couple of years, and even with PlayStation just recently saying that they are prepping to be more multi-platform, I don't think that any of this is necessarily overly shocking. It just kind of more or less confirms their PC commitment is in fact increasing rather than waning. Now, however, another change that they're making, though, is with new IP. They did state by their fiscal year of 2025, 50% of their PlayStation 5 games developed by their first-party studios will be new IP. Now, as they pointed out, in 2019, only 23% of their games was new IP. So again, as you're seeing here, they're making another big change, and I think that this one right here is particularly exciting because I always do welcome new IP. Of course, I mean, it's great to get sequels of some of our favorite games, and I mean, I'm personally really hoping they bring back games like Sly Cooper, Uncharted, Infamous, and so on and so forth. But that's the good thing with what Sony's doing here. They're saying that they have a 50-50 split on new IP and then their established franchises. So you kind of get the best of both worlds with what they're kind of describing here, and I really like that. I think that that is a good overall change. However, the one other big change that they're making here might be a little bit more divisive, as Sony continues to talk a lot about live service games. In fact, several of these new IP that they're talking about might come from live service games, which they apparently have a lot in development. They did confirm that they do indeed have 2 live service games planned for this fiscal year that's not Destiny related. I do imagine that one of these games will be Factions developed by Naughty Dog, the multiplayer edition for The Last of Us. What they'll call it, I'm not exactly sure yet, but I would kind of expect a full reveal of that multiplayer game mode rather soon, as, I mean, it's kind of been a while since The Last of Us Part 2 released. But with that said, it does seem like Sony's strategy right now is to kind of release a lot of live service games this generation in the hopes that a couple will stick. And their belief is that even if only 2 of these games are successful, it will have a major impact on their business as a whole. I mean, we have kind of seen that in the past. When a live service game is successful, I mean, it can be massively successful. What type of success Sony will see with this, though, that kind of remains to be seen. But all in all, though, Sony's definitely making some major changes this generation. That much is clear. They're focusing less on full exclusives and are starting to lean a little bit more on PC now, which I think is a great decision. They're also trying to expand with more new IP, which I think is great. And then they do have a heavier focus on live service games as well. That one, I'm going to kind of take a little bit more of a wait and see approach. But let me know what you all think about this in the comments below. Are you excited about some of these changes or not? Now, we also got a confirmation on a new Xbox device according to Windows Central. This has been in the rumor mill for quite a while, and that is an Xbox cloud game streaming device. Xbox, of course, has been at the forefront of cloud gaming, and their approach has been met with some moderate success as they do allow Xbox Game Pass games to be played through your phone or even PC via cloud game streaming. But it looks like they have more ambitious plans than just that. And that would be by releasing their own Xbox game streaming device that you can connect to any monitor or TV. Again, this has been rumored for a little while, but now Windows Central with an exclusive scoop has uncovered some of Microsoft's plans for this specific device. The first of which is that yes, this is indeed a real thing, and it's codenamed Keystone. However, at the same time, Microsoft has been exploring several iterations of this device before taking it to the market. It could be in the form of a streaming stick, as oftentimes has been speculated, or even a puck, as we've recently heard about, that you can connect to your TV or monitor. It doesn't necessarily seem like anything is set in stone just as of this moment, but a Microsoft spokesperson did make a comment to Windows Central, so let's just go and check out that statement made here. Our vision for Xbox Cloud Gaming is unwavering. Our goal is to enable people to play the games they want, on the devices they want, anywhere they want. As announced last year, we've been working on a game streaming device codenamed Keystone that can be connected to any TV or monitor without the need for a console. As part of any technical journey, we are constantly evaluating our efforts, reviewing our learnings, and ensuring we are bringing value to our customers. We have made the decision to pivot away from the current iteration of the Keystone device. We will take our learnings and refocus our efforts on a new approach that will allow us to deliver Xbox Cloud Gaming to more players around the world in the future. So there you have it, and this does confirm that this device does indeed exist. They are looking to make it an affordable streaming option, which I mean, this could absolutely be huge if they can manage to do this right. I mean, the idea of being able to play Xbox games without having to purchase a $300 to $500 console is certainly enticing, especially for the more casual crowd. This could really expand Xbox in a major way, again, if they can do it right. You know, they'll still have to make sure the streaming works properly and runs smoothly and all that. And I think that right now, as it is, streaming Xbox Game Pass games, I think that it does work well. I will say that there is a downgrade in terms of visual quality, and there is some delay in input, but at the same time, I still think that it's good for what it is. I still would like to see some improvement made here, though, and that might be one of the reasons why they're kind of taking their time with this device. Again, they need to make sure that they actually do this right. That is something that spokesperson did allude to here, and something that Windows Central also stated themselves. While yes, this device is a very real thing, don't expect a reveal anytime soon, and certainly not at their upcoming Xbox Bethesda showcase. Let's go and take a look at the poll of the day, though, and with some recent talks about a mid-generation refresh for the Xbox Series and a PlayStation 5, I wanted to go ahead and ask you all, is this something that you all actually want to see? Do you want to see a mid-generation refresh for the Xbox Series and a PlayStation 5 this generation? And yeah, most of you all are saying no, you do not want to see this. 65% of you said no, while 28% of you said yes. And I am in complete agreement with you all here. I am not, at this point in time, at the very least, I am not necessarily exactly stoked for a mid-generation refresh for either one of these consoles. I think that these are very powerful consoles this generation, and that we haven't even really seen the full potential of what these platforms can do. I mean, they're still kind of developing their tools and making that better. We haven't seen Unreal Engine 5 yet, and you know, Unreal Engine 5 alone, that's going to help developers get even more out of the power of these consoles. So I mean, when you start to consider things like that, again, I don't think that we necessarily need a mid-generation refresh for the time being. Now, if we are going to see another iteration of these consoles, which I very much think that we will see more iterations throughout this generation, the one that I would kind of look at is something that really both PlayStation and Xbox have done in the past, and that would be to kind of slim down their consoles, maybe try to make them a little bit more affordable throughout the generation. That right there would probably be the direction that I would prefer to see them make. I mean, both the Xbox Series and the PlayStation 5, I mean, these aren't exactly the smallest consoles in the world. These are beefy consoles. This was was a big conversation as we was moving into this generation, as I mean, they're much bigger than what we have seen from past consoles. So if anything, I would rather see a slim model up to this point than I would like to see a mid-generation refresh. Now, that's just my own personal opinion, as I'm pretty happy with the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5 this early in a generation, and I really don't think that they have come anywhere near reaching their full potential just yet. But hypothetically, if they were to do a mid-generation refresh, I think the one thing that they could improve with maybe a little bit more is ray tracing. That was a big buzzword as we were moving into this generation, and it didn't really kind of hit the way that a lot of fans were hoping for, because it just impacts performance way too much. So if they were to try to make an improvement with a mid-generation refresh, that'd probably be the thing that I look at currently. Anyways, though, that's it for this episode. But if you liked the video, don't forget the bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.